Hi, this is Birgit. Welcome back. Now, while this is not exactly making wine, it's a different recipe for wine. But first of all, let me put this into a little bit of context. Now, in the Bay Area, we have a lot of art and wine festivals that go along all summer long. Now, what we do is we try some wine and we walk along different stands and look at different artisans, photographers, etc., and we go shopping. Now, take a California Art and Wine Festival and put it in the middle of December in Germany. Now, this is where we have the Christmas markets. They were originated in the 1400s in the German-speaking area of Europe, and just about every town in Europe has one. And we have some photos that we have here of some Christmas markets in both Munich and Mannheim. Munich is, of course, in the heart of Bavaria, and you'll see the Ratshaus there. And the others were taken in Mannheim, which is right next to Heidelberg, about an hour south of Frankfurt. And what you can see here is that folks are strolling along these stands looking at holiday gifts, looking at decorations, things like that. But what do they do to keep themselves warm when it's December? Well, what they do is they actually drink some mulled wine, which is called Gluehwein in German. And I have here all the ingredients that you need to make it. Now, you can buy prefabricated or pre-mixed Gluehwein in the mixes that you can put into the red wine. But basically what you want is a dry wine, and this is typically going to be heated. And the things that you put into the wine, as I'm going to mix this, we're going to bring up a recipe for you. But we're going to go ahead and take some lemons and with the rind, so go ahead and clean those. And then in addition, we put in some sugar, some cinnamon, and some cloves. Now, this is one of the simpler recipes. There are some more complex recipes as well. But this is basically what we put into the wine and heat it up. And then we stir that. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how you do that here. There we go. And again, this would typically be stirred in a hot pot that you would be going along. And basically every different mulled wine stand that you would see typically in one of these stands is going to have a slightly different recipe. So what typically happens is that folks treat this as a very, very social occasion. So folks would meet after work, would meet at a particular Gluehwein stand or mulled wine stand. They would grab some, but then they would walk around, just like you would in the California Art and Wine Festivals. You go around, you would pick out your holiday gifts. They sell things like candles, handcrafted items, Christmas decorations. All of those things are available. And as every town has one, what will tend to happen is that folks will go from one town to the next and experience the different crafts that you can find at the different Christmas markets. Now, when the mulled wine is warm enough, what you typically get is a ceramic mug. And right now we just have a clear mug here as an example. But every town will typically design their own mug for every year. So it'll have the year on it. It will also have the name of the town on it. And one of the prides and joys of many families is to show you how many different years and how many different wine mugs they have collected over the years for these mulled wines. And they'll take those out at Christmas parties, and it's really one of those social occasions where folks like to create their own recipes and things like that. Now, you'll notice that there are other recipes that you might find out there on the internet that include things like brandy, etc. That's really more of a punch. The pure mulled wine is really these very simple ingredients. It's the dry red wine, it's the lemon, it's the cloves, it's the cinnamon, and it's the sugar. You make sure that that's warmed up for you. And just picture yourself being really cold in December and you're walking around and you're really grabbing onto that. And there'll be a lot of different Christmas markets again, and each one has its own little bent. Some of the smaller towns, you'll have some craftsmen, people know each other. Some of the larger towns, I've been to some Christmas markets where you identify a meeting place and you still spend an hour trying to find folks. So you get these Christmas markets in all different shapes and sizes. So for example, in Munich and Mannheim, you have a couple of places. We showed a picture earlier that showed Gluehwein, and it said Treffpunkt, which is meeting place, so that folks know this is a place where we can meet. So you can really gather around with friends and family and make sure that you're really getting into the spirit of the holidays. Now, some folks have compared this as being similar to something in colonial America with the mulled cider. It's a very similar concept where you have, in that case, the apple cider, where you also put in some very similar spices, and you can get that. And that's something that's a little bit more colonial America, as it were. And in terms of wine and food pairing, as we just heard about earlier, there's not that much pairing that really goes on. It's basically red wine with a lot of spices. But the thing that I did not mention yet is there's actually a lot of food at these Christmas markets. And thinking of Germany, of course, you think of sausages, so you can get different kinds of sausages with different kinds of mustards, with curries. You can also get some of the classic Christmas Lebkuchen and different types of Christmas snacks. You can get the peanuts. You can get pretty much all kinds of food. So what will sometimes tend to happen is that folks will snack their way through the evening and pretty much have dinner at one of these Christmas markets. But again, it's very social, and it's really preparing for the Christmas season. And one of the reasons it still remains so popular to this day is that it's just not so commercial, because the folks that are actually selling all of their products there, a lot of this is handmade. So you're not going to get the clothing or something like that. You're not going to get the manufactured types of items. What you're going to get a lot of times is hand carved. So a great example of that is actually nutcrackers. We've all seen nutcrackers in all shapes and sizes. We've seen some smokers that are actually also hand carved. A lot of them will have the incense that you can burn. So if you've ever seen a smoker, it's got a little pipe coming out of its mouth, and then the incense will go up. And a lot of folks use that also, again, to get ready for the holidays. You'll also see Christmas decorations. You'll see stars. You'll see a lot of candles. So as you go along, you'll also see quite a few toys, because, again, this is something that children really, really enjoy. And to the point of alcohol, there is mulled wine for the adults, but there's also something called Kinderpunsch for the kids. So you can bring your kids, and they can actually get something non-alcoholic to drink that looks a lot like what mom and dad actually have in their ceramic mugs right there. And then, of course, there are a lot of toys for those kids. So as you're going through the shopping malls here, there's always something at eye level for the kids, a lot of calendars, a lot of toys, a lot of hand-carved locomotives, things like that. The other thing that you find a lot that's handmade there is actually jewelry. So a lot of real, I would say not gold, but a lot of the different opals and different kinds of stones that are put together. And it's very amazing because they actually guarantee their work. So it's not that you're at a stand and you walk away and you never hear from them again. They actually guarantee their work. But as usual, something that you always want to come back to is meeting of friends, getting ready, being non-commercial, celebrating the holidays, and then basically having your Gluehwein to keep yourself warm. I think one of the last times I was in Germany, actually, a lot of my friends were saying, it's not quite cold enough for that Gluehwein yet. Well, I told them, well, now that I live in California, I've got to tell you, it was cold enough for me to have the Gluehwein. So I think I convinced everybody to stay a little bit longer during that session. Now, I'd like to invite all of you to try the different wines. We've seen Thomas Fogarty here today. We can't wait to taste John's new wines once they're ready. And now we have some Gluehwein. So I'd like to say goodbye and invite everybody up here with me. Thank you very much.